like, this girl walked into the wrong brunch. This is supposed to be positive. And I want to tell you that failure is actually extremely positive. It is the greatest thing you can do for yourself. And you're probably still wondering, like, this girl is off the rocker, like, it's Sunday morning, maybe this is all a nightmare, but failure is wonderful, and failure is actually extremely hard to do. Why is that, you ask? I have a good feeling that a lot of you in this room right now have this really awesome idea in your head, whether that's for a business, a career that you want to do, or even just something that you've always wanted to try, but you've been kind of scared to approach. And the reason why failure is hard to do is because I have a feeling also that very few of you are going to leave here today and actually do anything about those ideas. You're going to let them marinate in your head. You're going to go home and watch House of Cards on Netflix and do laundry and procrastinate until those ideas in your head are perfect, or as close to perfect as you can make it. You're never going to approach a situation and be like, I'm about 5% sure this is going to work, so let me just start right now. I was totally like that. Before I'd even leave the door in the morning, I'd be like, everything has to be great. I am not going to even set myself up for failure. I'm the same way when it comes to dating, which is why I'm still single, because I would go on a date with a guy and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do everything I can to make this guy like me, and I'm going to be perfect, and this isn't going to fail. And I quickly learned with dating that, there's two people involved, so it was really hard to learn that it's not just you, and you need to walk into situations and say, there's a 5% chance I'm going to succeed, but I'm going to try it anyway. So before I convince you that failure is great, let me tell you about some of my failures. To start off, I want to mention that I just graduated from stand-up comedy school. I'm not even going to try to tell you any jokes because stand-up comedy school taught me that I'm not very funny. But I signed up for stand-up comedy school last June. I was like, this is a great idea. My life's a little boring right now, so let me do comedy. And then right before the class started, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go. So I called up the stand-up comedy school. I'm like, I'm Jen Glantz, and I want my money back. And they were like, that's really funny, Jen, but you have to come to school. So I was like, okay, I don't have much money, and I can't lose $400, so I guess I'll go. And I got there, and every single week, the teacher makes you go up in front of the room and deliver 2 to 3 minutes of comedy. And you might think 2 to 3 minutes is nothing. It really is a lot when you're trying to make someone laugh. Every second is ticking in your head and it's silent. So for weeks 1 to 5, nobody laughed. I would get up there and I would I would write these jokes. I'm a writer, so I would write these jokes and these jokes are funny. And I'd get up there and I would mumble them with a paper and be like, dating is awkward, and nobody would laugh. And that lasted from weeks 1 to 5. So that was an ultimate failure because I walked in there knowing there's about a 5% chance that I'm going to be good at this. And instead of, ditching class every week or going home and just crying, I would go to class and just cry in front of everyone. But I would go, and I knew that, I was just going to go and fail. And that was awesome because by week 7, something extraordinary happened. One person laughed. Yeah. This is great. Still a failure in a lot of people's minds because it's one person, but I'll take it. And then when I got that one person to laugh, I put myself out there even more. And I started doing things I would never do in public, like dance in front of the class and do body movements to really enhance my whole performance. And then by week 9, 3 people laughed, so it kept getting better and better and better. But that started out as an ultimate failure. Another thing, and this is the reason why I learned that failure is awesome, is because I have a business called Bridesmaid for Hire. Just hearing that name alone, a lot of you are like, this girl is crazy, and I knew it when she got up here. But I started that business by posting an ad on Craigslist. I had the idea in my head for months, but why would I put it out there to the world until it was perfect, right? So from January to April, I'd come home and I would sit there looking at the wall and thinking, how do I make a business about being a bridesmaid? And I couldn't figure it out, and it was never good enough, and I was I bought a domain name, and I started a blog for it, but I didn't tell anyone. And I was like, I'm not going to tell the world until it's perfect. That was my game plan. One night in June, I love speaking, so I met with these women who were hosting a brunch similar to this, and I was like, I'm Jen Glantz, and I want to speak at your brunch. And they're like, you're nobody, and no, you can't speak at our brunch. So that was like failure number one of the evening. And I came home and I was so upset about that. I was like, I want to be somebody, I want to speak to people. Like, they made me feel like I wasn't good enough. So what do you do in that situation? Well, the normal person would go to sleep or go out on a Friday night. But Jen Glantz was like, I'm going to go on Craigslist. And I went on Craigslist and I was like, I'm going to tell the world about this crazy idea I have because I'm feeling pretty low about myself right now and can't get much worse. So I opened up a new post on Craigslist. I'd never been on Craigslist before, like maybe once or twice to read like misconnections to see if I was on there. But I went on Craigslist and I was like, I wrote an ad, a personal ad. It was like women looking for women, and it was like professional bridesmaid. I'm here to be your bridesmaid. I don't know you, but hire me as your bridesmaid. I pressed send, closed my computer. I didn't tell anybody, and I went to sleep thinking, oh my God, what the hell did I just do? I just put myself on Craigslist, and I also put this like idea that's been like in my head for months out there to the world. Was it ready? No. I had zero business background. I majored in poetry in college, failure. And here I am, like, starting this business on Craigslist. So I went to sleep and I figured, the good thing about Craigslist is there's a lot of crazy people on there, so maybe I'll just be another crazy and nobody will ever see it, and, I can still process this business in my head for a couple more months. I wasn't so lucky because a couple days later, people saw the ad and it went nuts. I mean, people all over the world were emailing me and calling me and asking me to be their bridesmaid. And in my head, I still was really low on myself. I was like, I can't do this. I don't have like an MBA. I don't even know anything about pricing and marketing and all this stuff I was going to learn before I put my idea out to the world. That's what people do. You think of a really cool business idea and you spend months and years organizing it before you throw it out there. So I put myself in this outrageous position. I set myself up for failure. The whole world was now looking at me like, Jen Glantz, crazy girl, starts bridesmaid for hire. They were wanting me to fail. I would go on, I did a lot of TV interviews, and the reporters, live TV, would look at me and say, this is a cool idea, but it's not a business. Who's going to hire you? So people were really looking for me to fail. And all of a sudden, one night at about 11:30, I think it was 3 months into the business, I threw my hands up in the air and I said, I'm done. I want to have fun again. I'm so stressed out all the time. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Everybody's watching me and I just don't want to do this anymore. But I'm also the kind of person who doesn't give up so easily. So I went to sleep and then I woke up and I Googled on my computer, I Googled free business advice in New York City. And I found this organization called SCORE. We were just talking about it. It changed my life. And I met my free business tutor. His name is Ray. He's 83 years old. And he's totally transformed my life. He's the one that taught me failure is good. So the first time I met Ray, I walked in there and he sat me down. He's like, tell me how you failed this week. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like, why would, even if I did fail, Ray, why would I tell you about it? We as humans, we're so trained to take our failures and our mistakes and totally hide them. You do that with everything. If we take a picture of ourselves, if we snap a selfie, rarely do you post it unless A, it's perfect, or B, you filtered it 7 times on Instagram. We don't post our flaws anywhere. It's not what we do, it's not who we are. So when Ray was asking me to list off my failures, I was so taken back. And he kicked me out of his office and he said, you can only come back next week if you write me a list of the ways you failed. So next week I came back and I'm like, okay, here's my list of 2 things I've done that I failed. And I show Ray, and the number 1 item had to do with dating. And it was like, I failed this week because I liked a guy a lot and I never heard from him and, I failed. And I wish I would have called him. That was the failure. I wish I would have called this guy. And Ray looked at me and he said, you have this all wrong. That's a regret. And failure is so different than regret. Regret makes you human. Failure makes you a hero. And I was like, Ray, In grade school, you like fail a test and your mom's like, you can't go out with your friends this weekend. No one's ever told me failure makes me a hero. And he's like, regret is something that you wish you did, but you didn't take any action on it. Failure is when you thought you knew what you were doing, or you knew what you wanted to do and you did it and it didn't work out. Those are two totally different things. He's like, I don't care about your regrets. Those will last in you for a while, those will make you upset for a while. Your failures are what's going to make you successful in the business world. And I left there and my whole world kind of changed. It really did change because I never looked at failure like that before. And ever since I started Bridesmaid for Hire, I had a lot of people come up to me and say, how do I start something? I have this idea in my head, how do I do it? I've been writing for the internet for 5 years now. I write a lot, I wrote a book, and people always want to know, how do you write? Or, how did you take that stand-up comedy class? It's simple. I walked in there saying to myself, probably not going to succeed the first time I try this, but I'm at least taking my first step. And I know for a fact, and speaking of regret, we all know there's been things that have lived in our head for way too long that they're almost too old to show the world by that point. Because you've thought about it in circles, and by the time you're ready to release it to the world, your business no longer makes sense to you. You're no longer in love with it. You no longer have passion for it. If I could give you any advice, it would be whatever you're thinking about, whatever you want to do, go and do it. Start today. Start right after you leave here. Go and do it. Whether that's just taking your first step towards something, or going home and writing down a list of things you always wanted to try but you're terrified of, go make that list, go do it, go walk in there and think to yourself, I might fail, but at least I'm starting it. At least I'm starting the process. Because you can heal really quickly from failure, but you can't really heal that well from regret. So that's why failure is, I think failure is the greatest way to empower yourself. It's the greatest way to feel awesome about yourself. And it's the greatest way to have in your head before you start a business. So that's my little speech for today.